Bonjour, bonsoir, whatever it is. The Paris Olympics are on, so I'm a little bit French in the head at the moment. Welcome to All Villa No Filler. Please remember to like and subscribe, and thank you very much. 3,000 of you have subscribed to this particular YouTube channel, with many, many more as well. Following us and subscribing on places like Spotify, iTunes, and all those sorts of places for the audio podcast. It's absolutely incredible to see that. It's a bit mind blowing, really. Amazing. Thank you so much. Let's keep on growing. Let's keep on getting it bigger because just love doing this. I love talking Aston Villa, and I love just kind of mainly doing interviews with experts who really know their stuff. And I think I'd like to think we sort of through that, bringing experts onto the channel and the podcast, that we're getting a perspective, or a different perspective on certain players we're linked to, or Aston Villa itself, and how the team itself is progressing. So thank you so much to everybody who does that. And as I say, please subscribe. Anyway, yes, today Aston Villa have had a few different links. Just thought I'd cover it a little bit. Nothing too serious, I think, but I think it does feel like it's a little bit suggestive of what's happening with Jhon Durán, doesn't it? So today, Villa were linked with Maximilian Beier. He is a Hoffenheim striker. He's 21 years of age. I did an interview with Max Merrill, German football expert, about a month ago, all about him. According to Florian Plettenberg, a German football journalist, Chelsea and Aston Villa have both bid 30 million euros. So what's that in pounds? Probably about 24 million pounds for him. Very good player, very, very talented. But the latest on that is from Florian, is that despite concrete offers from Chelsea and Villa, both clubs are not in pole position to get Beier. And you mentioned Juventus there, coming in for him as well. I've seen a Leverkusen have been linked. He scored, I think it was 16 goals in the Bundesliga last season. As I say, 21 years of age, clearly a lot of talent to be scoring goals, that many goals at that age, in your first real full season in the Bundesliga. It's very good stuff. But when I spoke to Max Merrill in our previous interview, he did kind of suggest that perhaps the best thing for him is not yet to jump to the Premier League, and that maybe the best thing to do would be to stay in the Bundesliga. Maybe, seeing the Leverkusen, I think, maybe instead of another year at Hoffenheim. But seeing the Leverkusen link, maybe if he went there, or Juventus, if they want him hard enough. He's young, he's talented. It's a bit of a risk going wherever he goes, Chelsea, Villa, or Juventus. But I sort of think that's probably off the cards now. But it does suggest, if the Villa link is accurate, and no reason to think that Florian Plettenberg would be inaccurate with it, it does suggest that Villa are at least looking for a direct replacement to Jhon Durán, because Beier is he's a striker. He can play as a second striker. He can play out on the wing, quite versatile. But he also matches that age profile, doesn't he? He's 21 years of age. We tend to be signing players of that age bracket. I largely think it's because Monchi and that have probably seen what happened with FFP, looking at what we've had to do this summer, seeing what we did in the Perso Gerrard year, where we signed a lot of players, big money, big wages with no resale value. And quite a few of those players, I don't think, added enough of a differential, essentially, to be players that we should have been spending that kind of money on. Whereas now, a few of these guys, Amadou Onana, 22, Enzo Berenacea, 22, 23, Morgan Rogers just turned 22. Samuel Ireland Jr., what is he, 21? A lot of players who signed that are very, very young. And you just have to think that ultimately, long term in the game, if they do really, really well, Kostas Nedeljkovic, another one, just 18, 19. In a couple of years, when if they do really well, we can sell them on if we want to. But maybe Villa do reach a level where actually we don't have to sell a lot of these players. But yes, it's a bit of a smarter approach than I think we've have done in recent years. But instead, one link that we also have had today that intrigued me, I'll get it up now. Jean-Philippe Mateta, Charlie Gordon reporting this for the Daily Express. He said that talks are not advanced, but Villa have made contact with Palace, the Palace strikers camp. Mateta wants Champions League football and yet to sign a contract extension. Now, Mateta, I think he's 27 years of age. He'd cost a lot of money given the form he showed for Palace last season and the fact that he's Premier League proven and pretty much at his peak. Last season, 16 goals in the Premier League in 35 games, 5 assists. Took a bit of a while to get going, but when he got going, became a bit unstoppable, really, didn't he? Scored against everybody from Man City, Man United, Newcastle, Aston Villa. The season before that, 2 goals in 29, one of which I think was against Aston Villa, a game I was at. Thanks, Stevie G. Thanks for that. So, he has taken a while to get going in the Premier League, but I think it's probably worth noting, kind of similar to what I said about Amadou Onana coming in from Everton. Sometimes players playing systems that don't necessarily work for them. And I'm not sure Mateta playing under Roy Hodgson really was probably where you saw the very best of him. And in fairness, his goal record, he scored in the Bundesliga in 2018-19. I think it was for Mainz, but he scored 14 goals in 34, 2018-19. Since then, his league totals have been 3 one season, 7 one season, 1, 5, 2, and last season hitting 16. So not exactly like a prolific striker, and you do wonder if it's a bit of a purple patch what happened last season. But I can't help but think that Oliver Glasner coming in to Palace is probably the exact kind of coach who plays the exact kind of football that probably gets the very best out of Mateta. And sometimes strikers particularly, they do take a while sometimes to find their feet and just find a comfort zone and find the confidence that they're going to finish all the time. Look at Christian Benteke's career and you think when he played at Villa, he got 19 goals in one season, didn't he, when he was, 21? And you kind of thought he'd go on then to become eventually, at the age of 21, getting that in an absolute, at the time, rubbish Paul Lambert team. We were rubbish. He delayed our relegation, let's face it, by a few years. Followed it up with a few seasons of not getting that as many goals, but he did get still quite a lot. Then he went to Liverpool, then he went to Crystal Palace, and it just looked like he couldn't hit a barn door, didn't it? For years, really, particularly at Palace. So I think strikers can be a bit streaky like that, and sometimes take a while to find their feet. But also look at a player like Didier Drogba. Drogba didn't really come good until his mid-20s, and then became one of the great strikers of world football for a long period of time. Wasn't until I think it was at Marseille, 24, 25, when he started scoring, then went on to Chelsea. So Mateta, I personally think I think he'd be a great signing for Villa. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I truly would not be surprised if this link is actually true and that Villa have spoken to his camp, because basically, let's face it, if Jhon Durán goes, we have to have another striker, right? Yes, it looks like we are going hard for Joao Felix. There's a good chance it happens, I would say. I'm quite confident that Villa are going to work as hard as they can to make it happen. And I think that for Joao Felix, Aston Villa looks like the club he should probably be going to now in his career. Not saying it definitely will happen, but I think there's a better chance of it happening probably than there ever has been, given we were linked to him last year as well. But I think Mateta, he'd be a bit of a light for light for Durán. And let's face it, we've been very, very fortunate that Ollie Watkins has not had any kind of prolonged period of time out of the team with any kind of injury. He is he's an endurance man, isn't he? But you do have to think at some point there could be a month where Ollie Watkins just isn't available. And if Jhon Durán's not there, well, who do we have up front? Well, Cameron Archer looks like he's sticking around. Goal poacher. But he has a very specific style that I think, a bit of a fox in the box, a bit of an impact player. I'd see him coming on for 30 minutes, maybe, in games. But Mateta, he has that height, doesn't he? He has that physicality. And it's not just what he could do for us up front, but it would be what he could do in defence as well. Let's say there's a set piece, free kick coming into the area, the corner. You'd have an Onana back there. You'd have maybe a Tyrone Mings comes back. Maybe you'd have a Mateta could go back there. That's suddenly 3. And I'd like to think we might try and sign an area dominant defender before the transfer window's over. I hope we do. But that could be a range of players you have back there suddenly where you think, okay, maybe that stops Villa conceding the amount of goals that we've been bloody conceding from set pieces, and it is costing us. We are concede too many. And so that's something that he could contribute to. But then also, if Watkins were ever out for a period of time, Mateta, I mean, that's a proven Premier League goal scorer who'd come in 16 goals last season, 5 assists. You know, he scores all kinds of goals. And I know people could argue it was a purple patch. I would argue he just found the right coach and he finally found the confidence to enable him to go and score the goals his talent probably has always been able to do. So now, let's run through a few of those goals. The Newcastle game, Palace were absolutely fantastic in that latter half of the season under Glasner. Now, against Newcastle, Eberechi plays the ball into him. Right. Now, Mateta cleverly comes off the defender. And I remember I had a coach who taught me this, that what sometimes strikers should do is don't stick tight to the defender. Sometimes just walk away, just a couple of yards, give yourself that little bit of space, and then you can do a 1-2 ball around the corner. I think we used to call I can't remember what we used to call it, but because this is 22 years ago. But Mateta did exactly this. Laid it off to the number 9, Jordan Ayew, formerly Villa. Then he runs in behind the Newcastle defence because he finds the space. Because Ayew does a lovely 1-2 with him, perfectly weighted, and Mateta finishes it. It was a really, really intelligent goal from a striker who has the intelligence to just walk away from his man, find that little gap, have the awareness to know where the number 9 is or his co-striker is, lay it off to him, make the run in behind, do that curved run behind the defence, and a great finish as well. So, that was a superb goal, I think, from Mateta against a tough Newcastle team. Newcastle are just a physically horrible team to play against, and they played quite a bit better in the latter half of the season as well. And then the second goal he scored in that game, so you had the Palace winger coming down the pitch. He lays it into Will Hughes. Will Hughes comes down, and look at that. I mean, the Newcastle defence, you can ask questions about where the defender is, how Mateta's managed to find that kind of space. But at the same time as well, again, I remember the coach used to tell me, don't always just run into the 6-yard box. Sometimes just hold your run back. So maybe the winger coming in behind you gets into that 6-yard box. And if the ball comes across 6-yard box, they're at the back post and get ahead of the defender and score. Or if you're the striker, sometimes I say this as if I was pretty rubbish up front. I remember basically, so where Will Hughes is now coming into line, the striker sometimes just don't run into 6-yard box, just hold your run by the penalty box spot. And that's exactly what Mateta did. Will Hughes passes it back to him, finish, goal. Great stuff. 2 really, really good striker goals there from Mateta against a very solid Newcastle side. Another goal, Selhurst Park, Manchester United in that 4-0 battering of Erik ten Hag's, let's face it, shambolic side last season. He gets the ball a long old way from goal there, right? He's a mile away. He's got no right to be scoring from here, has he? So he runs at the United defender, beats him. I can't identify the United defender there, and I don't really care. He beats him, right? Gets past him, gets into the area. And again, look at his position there. Not really a favourite to score from there, is he? You've got to hit it bloody hard to get it past Onana from there. And he does, right into the top corner. That's a superb goal. Again, running at a defender, beating him, and you've just got the power in your shot to get it past. That's quality. That's really good. Again, so Man City game, I watched this, the 4-2, where Jack Grealish was absolutely fantastic. We all saw the Grealish video, right, where he talked to that Villa fan. Sorry, I love Jack Grealish. Jack, come home. That second striker role was made for you. You will win league titles with us. You're the missing ingredient. Come home. Solihull's Touchwood Court is better than the Arndale Centre in Manchester. I guarantee you that, mate. Yeah? Black Sabbath are better than Oasis. You know it. Come home. Anyway, so I think it was Adam Wharton. I remember Man City gave the ball away, and I think it was either Rodri or John Stones gave away. Anyway, Palace win it back. Adam Wharton, quick ball around the corner. Now, again, look at where Mateta is. He's by John Stones here. He's absolutely miles away from the goal. But obviously, City are playing a high line. So Mateta's shown that he can deal with a sort of lower or a mid block that Newcastle have. He's shown that he can beat a man with strength and power and then finish it. And here, he's shown that he can beat a high line, run in behind, outpace a player of the quality of John Stones and Kyle Walker chasing him as well, by the way. Carries on running And then look at this. He gets to the edge of the area. And I think it was Ortega in goal for Palace that day instead of Ederson. And you think, again, from this spot, you think, all right, it's a lot of Premier League strikers would think they probably should score this, but there's a lot of players who wouldn't score it. They'd hit it straight at the keeper or just miss the target. Mateta doesn't. He buries it right hits the post and goes in. What a great finish. Great goal. Again, so he's shown you can do this against high lines as well. Curves his run, times his run perfectly, gets in behind that defender, has the awareness, intelligence. That's the thing with these strikers, these big strikers. Everyone just assumes muscle, strength, hold the ball up, a bit of this in the fighting, grab. The intelligence you have to be this kind of a player. I'm in awe of Premier League players. I honestly am. I speak about them with love because I'm so in. It's like watching the Olympics. I'm so in admiration of these incredible athletes who don't just have the athletic ability to be at the very top of the game, but have the intelligence. And I think players like Mateta don't get credited enough for the intelligence they have. It's all just a big striker. He's a big lad, isn't he? Big and hard. No, he's freaking bright. So good on him. Great goal. So that's a few top goals I've shown you there. And then this. So we all know he scored a hat-trick on the last day against Villa. I'm not going to bring that game up, just not because I'm bitter or anything, because I've never seen a team more on the beach. We literally played with a pina colada in hand. Like probably Douglas Luiz and John McGinn were on the halfway line drinking pina coladas together, with sunglasses on. John McGinn putting on the Factor 100 sun cream because he's like me, he's got Celtic pale skin, and he's like, hey, just get a sun cream on, drink the pina colada sunglasses, and then Unai Emery screaming at him, bloody Eze, you're in a game, mate. And he's like, oh, hey Sam. Throws a pina colada in the air, tries to charge back, can't get him because that's what Villa were. I've never seen a team on the beach, and we bloody deserved it. Let's face it, after a long, hard season, and the physical battering we took, that injury crisis we had. Fair play, fine. I don't care about that game, but what I do care about is this game, Villa at home, where Villa won 3-1. Mateta gets the ball beyond in his own half, right, and Pau Torres is on him. Now, Pau Torres is not a player that you think of as. I think he's much more physical than I think we give him credit for. I think he's a stronger player than that. I think we think of him as just a ball-playing defender who's not as strong as, a lot of other players. But actually, he is pretty physical. But here, he just gets done by Mateta. Mateta, again, great striker play. Back to goal, which is, I honestly think it's the hardest skill in football to play back to goal. I really do. It's the thing of everything I ever did playing football growing up. It was the thing I always thought, I cannot. I'm in awe of players who can do this. Like, it's amazing. So he gets it. He's obviously big and strong, so he can, he can use that. Rolls him, right? And then he just uses his pace. So he shows he's got that pace as he showed against Man City with that goal, as he showed against United. Runs down the wing and a perfect pass across the area, perfectly weighted into the Palace striker, and a goal. Fantastic work from Mateta. So I thought I'd just do that to show that I really like Mateta. I think he's been a brilliant player for Palace. And even if the Villa link never comes to anything, I still kind of wanted to express my admiration for him because I think he's a fantastic player. And I really hope that the form he showed last season for Crystal Palace, he can manage to continue this year, because I think I do really believe there's a top player in there. And I think he's, hopefully he's found what he can do in the Premier League on a consistent basis. But I just think it's an interesting link. I think there's no reason to believe it isn't true. Because Villa surely are looking for a striker, you would think. And I think Mateta, were he to come to Villa, right, it'd be a lot of money. Palace would want 40 or more, I'm sure of it. But were Villa to get him, think of that physicality we got in the team suddenly in Onana and Mateta, right? And I would argue a couple more coming in, maybe in defence. Villa did, I think last season when Villa had we were fantastic in control of the ball, in possession. But there were times, I've said this a million times on the podcast, there were times where it just felt like we went from composed to casual. And I think at times it was taking the foot off the gas at times. other teams, when Villa were 2-0 up, 3-0 up even, the other team being like, screw it, let's just go for it. And Villa not reacting within games to that. That's something we definitely have to improve this season, as well as defending set pieces. But also sometimes I just think it was that lack of kind of taking the foot off the gas, but also sometimes just getting a bit physically overawed and teams went at us. And maybe Newcastle are two good examples of that happening to us. Chelsea in the FA Cup was another good example of it. Sometimes there were just occasions where, as good as we were in possession, maybe sometimes we just needed a little bit more physicality. I think Onana brings that in 100%, as well as being a really interesting player to watch, Onana. Because I do think there's a more attacking player in there than we saw at Sean Dyche's Everton. I think Unai Emery, I suspect, might see it as well. And Onana, at first I thought CDM, although until Boubacar Kamara comes back, but now I see Barrenechea and I think, do you know what? I could see Onana and Barrenechea forming a little partnership at some point. And maybe Barrenechea becomes that regista, as they call in Italian football, tidy upperer, smart, intelligent, wins the ball, clever little balls here and there. And Onana becomes that, again, a very intelligent player, but attacking player, back and forth, box to box a little bit more, does a bit more of a Douglas Luiz role, though he's a different profile player. Maybe he does that a bit more. But I just think the idea of Mateta, really like it. I really like it. Because, as I say, Villa have a lot of games next season. We can't play Watkins every single game. The first half of the season is going to be pretty brutal just because of the 8 Champions League games against top bloody opposition. And if you could have a player like Mateta who maybe starts a Premier League game on a Sunday and Watkins starts a Champions League game on a Wednesday, I don't think you're losing a massive amount, actually. And I think Mateta could score loads of goals for us. Or if we wanted to have a game where Watkins starts, we'll only play 60 and Mateta comes on for half an hour. It makes sense in my head in every way. Physicality, height, and ability. I like it. I really like it. Like I say, I'm not convinced that it's going to go much further than what we saw today from the Express. But I just sort of wanted to lay my case as to why I think a striker of that profile as a replacement for Durán would actually be really, really nice. Otherwise, a few more interviews coming this week. Some interesting ones coming. I'm very excited about a couple of them. And I think we're interested to see what happens to Durán. That's gone quite cold. Nicholas Fulcrum going to West Ham sounds like a natural bit of a goer now. And I do wonder if Durán could end up staying at Villa. He's got a lot of work to do to win back our love and affection, really. But I wonder if he might end up in Saudi Arabia. Those links as well have been growing, and they might just pay the money that Villa want. Villa sticking close to they're saying, look, West Ham United, give us what we want. If you're not going to give it, same to Chelsea. There's a Saudi club here who will give it. And say to Durán, you've kicked up a big bloody fuss here. You made it hard for yourself, harder than it needs to be. I have a lot of leeway because he's a young guy, very young guy, and we have to, who knows what sort of advisors you have at the age of bloody 20, 21, when you're in a whole new country, new culture. You've got to bear in mind these things. That is a factor. I think in years to come, when he's more mature, he might look back and go, do you know what, I regret that. Just as I look back at the age of 19, 20 and regret pretty much everything. So yeah, I think a bit of leeway is due there, but at the same time, mate, you've got to be more mature. You've got to be more aware in the role you're in. You've got to have the right advisors, and he's not made it easy for himself, has he? I think it is time to go for him. Who knows, though? I think it could drag on a little bit more now, this Durán deal. Joao Felix, that's the one that I just think the noise is too loud. It all makes too much sense. And what Unai Emery has publicly said about him before makes me think Unai Emery really thinks there's a player there who he can get the very best out of. And I'm sure the commercial team would bloody love it, having a player of Joao Felix's fame there. I'm sure it'd sell a lot of shirts, and it'd be a great name to have to sell the Villa brand, if you want to look at it that way. But on the pitch, as Unai Emery will be looking at it, 24, so much skill, so versatile, and a second striker role. As he played out on the wings generally for Barcelona last season. but came inside. I think playing mostly inside, can play on the right if we have to, or play on the left if we want him to have that versatility. Playing as that second striker, you can totally see why Unai Emery thinks that is the exact kind of player he usually in the past has taken hold of and thought, you've not quite reached the level you can do, or you've had a tough spell here. Unai Emery saying, I am the man to make you as good as you truly can be. And I think Felix, Villa and Unai Emery makes a lot of sense in that way. It's not Coutinho. Coutinho was older, hadn't been in good form for Barcelona for a long time. And the injuries, his physical size just wasn't right for the Premier League. And I really realised that when I saw him play Everton last season. He got that injury and he was kicked everywhere. And that was his last game for Villa. And I just thought he's got all the talent, but he just physicality-wise, I just thought it's not Premier League ain't the right place for him now. Whereas Felix, he showed at Chelsea he can do it. Showed in La Liga, a big, tough, hard league, he can do it. I think so. Look, more to come on that. Maybe another interview in line. Hold your hats. Anyway, rambled on long enough. Thank you very much for watching, listening. Please like, subscribe, and please give us a 5-star review on Spotify, iTunes as well. On iTunes, you can write little reviews if you're kind enough. These 5-star reviews really, really help just get us up the charts. And it's unbelievable what's been happening, downloads recently. Just thank you so much. It's amazing. And I just love talking about Villa. I have such a passion for it. It really is just a passion project. And I love meeting other Villa fans who want to do it. And I really hope that with this channel, it's not about, clickbait and screaming and shouting and negativity and just being a dick about things and just making the whole conversation within football toxic. I hope it's a bit more just about like a love of the game, a genuine love of it, and genuine love for Villa. And that's what we aim for in here. So, as I said, thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, and all that stuff. Comment down below, comment online, or whatever. Up the mighty Villa.